Today is Thursday, March the 7th, and volume was really low today in the Dow. Average for the NASDAQ, low in the S&P 500. Advancers led to decliners by 3 to 1, and you can see that we tailed off from midday. So the bad news came at 8:30 in the morning that 3.2 million more people went on unemployment. I think that brings the total to 33 million. 77% of those feel confident that they will get their job back. That means that 23% of them feel they will not get their job back, or maybe won't get it back very quickly, which could lead to long-term unemployment numbers of 7 to 9 or 10%. So that didn't hurt the market anyways. I mean, that really wasn't bad news. And then we found out that Trump was exposed to the coronavirus by his valet, but I doubt if that affected the market too much. But our stock market breadth indicator bounced up. So from the zero line, we had the bounce. Remember we said yesterday that the zero would be a test. The last time we hit zero, we bounced and we really went quite high. The time before that, we dropped for one day and then we really went and set a new high. So could we repeat that again? Let's look at a few more charts. The Summation Index took a little bit of a tick up. We said yesterday that it was slowing down. It dropped by -10 yesterday. Today it was up 60 after having been up 60 the day before. So, we could be resuming these numbers, but they're still slowing down from the 200s, 300s that we'd seen in the week before. The year-to-date oscillator is looking something like this. We just saw that before. Our volume in dollars, here's our up volume and our down volume. Excuse me, is that dollars or is that, yeah, it's volume in thousands. It's not dollars, it's volume in thousands. And there's your up volume and there's your down volume. For your total stacked volume is just a little bit higher than the day before, but less than on Tuesday. Nothing stellar. You know what they say, when the market goes down, it goes down like an elevator. And look at all the bleeding red in here. When it goes up more like an escalator. When it went up in these 2 weeks, we did see some decent volume, but we haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen anything like these volumes back at the end of March and the beginning of April. We saw the Summation Index. Now let's look at the charts because, well, let's go back to McClellan for a second. There's something I want to point out. Investors fleeing out of the SPY. He's talking about here the correlation. He's a great guy for mathematics and for spotting things in charts. He must do it 12 hours a day when he's not appearing on CNBC. But nonetheless, anyways, I digress. Basically, he's saying there's a correlation between the outstanding shares of the SPY. So some of them could be short, some of them could be long. You could be long the SPY or short the SPY. But typically when the market's going up, people are long. When the market's going down, people are short. But the number of outstanding shares. Now he's saying right now we're seeing a circumstance where prices are rising, but the number of outstanding shares has fallen rapidly. This conveys the message that investors are not believing in the uptrend, which of course is a sign familiar to every contrarian that the uptrend should continue. So there's a mixed message right there, right? He's saying that the investors don't seem to be convinced, but then contrarian thought says that when investors think that way, you go the other way. Take that as you will. There's two things I want to show you on the SPY. I saw a tweet today by somebody who posted something in the Seeking Alpha. You can take that with Seeking Alpha with a grain of salt, but some of the articles are actually pretty good. I wouldn't buy or sell based on that advice, but it's food for thought. We didn't see the Chiku span doing anything in particular. It's above the 50 now, thankfully. So we can take that out. Because the Chiku span now has broken through the 50. That resistance, which held for a couple of days, is gone. The next resistance is going to be the 200 EMA for price. And that's going to happen before the Chiku span actually, here's another coincidence where the 50 simple moving average and the 200 EMA are crossing. So let's keep an eye on that particular area right there. That's early next week. That would mean that we had already broken through the 200 and we're more closer to the 200 simple moving average. That implies quite a significant move and above 61.8% for the SPX. So keep an eye on that. We also need to keep our eye on the cloud, but having had that one test, I think we're safe to say that we are probably going higher. The volatility went down. But the other thing I wanted to show you was a study with the 400-day moving average. Now this white line, let's take out all of the others. Let's just put in the 400-day. This is the only line you see on the chart is the 1-day 400 simple moving average. This is a weekly chart. So these are weekly bars, but this is a daily moving average. So whether I switch between days or weeks, it doesn't matter. This line is the same. Let's look and see how significant that has been. Back here in 1998, we spent 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks bouncing on either side of the 400. End of 1999, we hit the 400. In 2000, we fell below it. Now that was the big internet crash, right? The big internet bubble. And then we had the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. We popped. War always makes the market move up, which it did. And it popped cleanly through the 400, came down and flirted with the 400. 2005, late 2005, mid 2006, the 400, 2007. 2008, now we're going into the financial recession. And we see a slice of the 400, then a test of the 400, and a prompt move down. Another test of the 400 in 210, later 210, played around with it for several weeks in 2011, then test, test, test. We lost it here. What was this, 2015? Can't remember. Another one, 2016. We lost it in 2019, 2018. You remember we had this big drop in the fall of 2018, and then we moved up in January. Now we've come down, and the 400 is in play again. So we should really set a marker right here to create an alert when the price crosses the 400-day moving average. And let's wait and see when that happens. That will be significant. Apple, let's look at Apple on a regular basis. Stayed above the 78.6, this perfect doji today, a trade-off between the buyers and the sellers. The stochastic momentum indicators are both showing overbought, but as we know, they can stay up here for a period of time. They can stay up there for more than a month, sometimes longer. Apple is moving. Apple's doing well. Apple's talking about releasing yet another Apple TV. And what better time if people are staying at home than to release something that people are doing a lot of, watching TV. The next resistance is still the top of the cloud for the Chiku span. And that's going to come around the level of 307. Apple is a stock to own. Tomorrow, the stock goes ex-dividend, so 82 cents will come out of the price of the stock. If you see it drop by 82 cents, that's why. If you see it go up tomorrow, it's because people are still buying it even without the dividend. And that's a good sign. Caterpillar, that we haven't talked about in a while because I lost the symbol here, has now had 1, 2, 3 out of the last 4 days touching the bottom of the cloud. So we want to set an alert and see if Caterpillar will actually drop below the Senko span A. Now the A is usually the top, but in this case, because the cloud is flipped, the A, the green one, the top, is now on the bottom. It means that particular moving average is less than the moving average that's used to calculate Senkou span B. So let's keep an eye on that. The Chikou span fell just a little bit below the 8, but you can see the Chikou span is below some candles. So there's some tough work for Caterpillar to come back. Lots of resistance that's going on for the next 2 weeks. CrowdStrike up $4.34. Can't remember, was it Andy who told us about that one, but that's a good one to watch. We also got another tip from one of our other watchers who told us about W yesterday. His name is Patel. Take a look at the stocks that he's recommending. He's got his eye on a few good things as well. Home Depot 230, very nice pop, heading towards 235. The Chikou span is finally broken. I tweeted today that for a long time the Chikou span hung out at the cloud, but now that it's broken through, its next resistance is going to be the top of the cloud, which could come right here at the top of this this Gartley pattern, which is in effect a bat pattern in the Gartley family. So we're heading towards 235. Earnings are on Monday, and judging by what I've seen in the Lowe's store, which is near me, the Home Depot's a little bit further away, they're going to have good earnings. People have been going into these stores and shopping during the lockdown and doing home projects. So I purchased today 3 of next week's 230 calls, and I sold the 235 calls for $1.95, so roughly $2. So that spread could make me $3. It's a $5 spread that cost me $2, so it could profit me by $3. And I'm in for 3 contracts, so that would be $900. Now, Nvidia, I got out of Nvidia today. I wanted to use that money for Home Depot. I had made $600 and some on Nvidia. I put it all into Home Depot, which I just think has, because of its earnings, has a better chance for a big pop. I may get into Nvidia again. It's just set a new recent high. Here was a higher low, higher, and then higher again, but we did pull back a bit. Well, we are headed to 333. The volume was tapering off, so I was just glad to make 50% of my profit, and I got out. Smile Direct up 8 cents. Whirlpool down 23 cents, just having difficulty with the cloud. Now, the other stocks that were mentioned was Wayfair. We talked about it yesterday. This was mentioned by Mr. Patel. Volume was pretty low today, so we're not seeing follow through after the earnings. If we're going to get into this stock, it's going to have to break over 183. But is it going to come back and test for continued buying if it touches the top of the cloud? It's quite possible that it may come back to the top of the cloud to look for buyers, to make sure that people are convinced that if they buy, there's going to be somebody buying with them, but they may not want to buy at these levels. They may want to wait and see if there's buyers at 160 and get back into the stock again, but they're not going to sell yet. They're going to hold. The other stock that was mentioned by Mr. Patel is ANET. This is a network play similar to FSLY that Andy was into, and I'm going to show you that chart in a second. Andy made a spectacular trade on FSLY. We still haven't broken this trend line in ANET. Their earnings, I believe they just had earnings yesterday, like FSLY, and their earnings, I think they were good, but maybe not as good as people expected. Anyways, it pulled back. So if you're going to buy ANET, you have some conviction, but volume was a little low today. It got its spike in volume yesterday before the earnings. No, yesterday was the earnings. I'm sorry. So it got a bit of a spike yesterday. Anyways, check that out. I'm not ready to buy it yet. but could be an interesting stock. Meanwhile, let's go back and look at Andy's FSLY. He told us about this stock. Gosh, I don't remember, but it was down here. Look at that today. It had its earnings report, and it just skyrocketed up 41%. Andy, if you would please leave a note in the comments telling us how the hell did you spot this stock? And please, let's keep an eye on what Andy is talking about in the discussion in the comment section. And every stock he tells us to take a look at, I will make a point of analyzing and keeping our eye on. Now today, the Chiku span, let's see where the Chiku span should be way up here. Something's wrong with the chart. The Chiku span should be much higher, but nonetheless, there we are. Yesterday, I'm finished. This is the end of, let me just go back and say where we plan on going tomorrow. Then I'm going to come back and show you how to clean the data out on this chart if you see something that's not working in Motive Wave. But I cut off yesterday just a little bit too soon before saying where do I think we're going and where do I think we're going. Let's get back to the McClellan. The McClellan is what I'm looking at, and McClellan. The McClellan oscillator has this nice bounce. I believe that we are going higher, but tomorrow is a Friday. We may have a little bit of a drop tomorrow, but we won't have an A to D difference of 1,000 shares, which would pop us below 1,000, unless there's some bad news overnight, but I haven't read anything about it yet. So my call is for a little bit of a sideways or up day tomorrow, but continuing uptrend next week. Now, I'm finished, but let's just go back here. And in Motive Wave, you can clear local data, and then it will plot with new data, and the Chiku span still is not registering. So I don't know why that is. That's not the one I wanted. There's the Chiku span. So all I had to do was call up the study again and look at that move. That's unbelievable. Congratulations, Andy.